Good morning. So today, although I am not there, I have a video for you to watch in order to learn the topic that we should be learning today so that we don't get behind schedule. So today is going to be your complex numbers, your second lesson. So this is going to be 4.2, and we're going to talk today about multiplying complex numbers. Okay, when we multiply complex numbers, they're going to look very similar to our problems from chapter 3 where it said find the product. So this is an example of kind of what you're going to see today. You don't have to write this down just yet, but here's the problem of like what we'll see. And as you notice, remember those powers of I we talked about yesterday? We're going to have to do a little substitution today because we're going to get answers that have an I squared. And if you remember, our final answer is not allowed to have an I squared. So why don't we go ahead and work this first problem together. So let me slide the screen up here. Multiplying, we need to find the product. So if you guys remember, this is just an expression. I'm not actually solving anything. I'm changing how it looks on the page. And what we need to do is we need to either FOIL this or use the box. So what I'm going to do is for the first couple problems, I'm going to use the box and then I'll try foiling as well. So here is my box that I'm going to use. Okay, and I multiply into the box. So I'm going to put a positive 4 and a positive 6i across the top, and a 2 and a negative 3i across the side. And now all I'm going to do is multiply into the box. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 6i is 12i. 4 times negative 3i, negative 12i. Negative 3i times 6i is going to be negative 18i squared. Okay, so that's going to be where our issue's at, that we're going to have to deal with that. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull all of these terms out of my box. So I get 8 plus 12i minus 12i minus 18i squared. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and combine some like terms here. Okay, and hopefully you guys notice that the 12i and the negative 12i, those are like terms. They actually cancel each other out. I have no i's left over. So what I have left here is I have 8 minus 18i squared. But if you remember yesterday, I told you that rule that we aren't allowed to have anything except for an I to the first power in our final answer. So the question is, what can I put right here in the spot of this I squared that is not an I squared? Well, yesterday we said that I squared was equal to a negative 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply substitute and put a negative 1 in its spot. So what I end up with here is I end up with, slide this over a little bit, 8 minus 18 times a negative 1, which is going to become 8 plus 18, and my final answer is going to be a 26. Notice that I only have a real part. I don't have an imaginary part. Sometimes that happens, but not all the time. Okay? So the biggest thing with this problem right here is that noticing that we cannot have a negative I squared, so I have to substitute something in its place that is equivalent to it so that I can finish out the problem and get the final answer of 26. Okay? Let's do another problem. Okay. Our next problem is going to say simplify or find the product. It's up to you. And I'm going to give you two binomials that, again, you have to use the FOIL method or the box on. Okay, and I gave you the binomial negative 7 plus 9i and I want you to multiply that by 4 minus 12i. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and see if you can come up with what it's supposed to be. And then I will show you my work and we'll make sure we got the same answer before we continue on. Okay, so you should have an answer when you multiply either by FOILing or the box now. What I'm going to do is go ahead and show you my work and we'll make sure that we're on the same track before we continue on. Okay, so I chose to use the box method so that it's very visual of where I got my numbers from. And I went ahead and multiplied these all together. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this and pull all of these terms out of my box. I get a negative 28 plus a 36i plus an 84i. Those are going to be like terms. Okay, these normally in the box are like terms. And then I'm going to get a negative 108i squared that I know I'm going to have to put something in the I squared spot because I'm not allowed to have an I squared in my final answer. So what I'm going to do now is let you check your answer and then we'll continue on. Make sure you have those 4 terms. Okay, now what I'm going to do, hopefully you have those 4 terms. If not, hopefully you wrote them down. I'm going to combine the like terms that I have here in the middle. 84 plus 36 is 120 i's. And then I know that in this I squared spot, just like the last problem, I need to put in a negative 1. Okay, so that's going to give me a negative 28 plus 108. And when I put those together, I'm going to get 80 plus my imaginary part. So this right here is going to be the final answer that I get after I have simplified this original problem up here. Okay, they're the exact same thing, they just look different on my page. Okay, let's do one more where I let you guys kind of work through this with me, and then I'll give you a few to try on your own before we'll be done for today. Okay, so let's go over here. Again, our directions are going to say simplify. And this time I want to kind of look at one of the ones that was a special case in our last chapter. I'm going to have the quantity 7 plus 6i, and I'm going to have that squared. Okay, so what we need to remember is when we have something like this and we have to rewrite it, what this really is saying is that I need to take 7 plus 6i and I need to multiply it by 7 plus 6i. Okay, so go ahead and use the box or FOIL. And let's go ahead and say, well, what does this equal when I multiply this out? So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can find the 4 things that it multiplies out into. Okay, so I went ahead and did the multiplication. And when I FOIL or use the box, I ended up with this. I end up with 49 plus 42i plus another 42i plus 36i squared. Okay, so again, pause the video or write down this if you did not get this. Hopefully you guys are comfortable with getting these right answers now. I'm going to go ahead and continue on, and I'm going to combine my like terms and say that 42 plus 42 gives me a total of 84 i's. I'm going to say that in the spot of I squared, I'm going to put a negative 1. If you guys haven't noticed, you're probably going to get an I squared for most of these problems, and you're always going to put a negative 1 in. Okay, so that's pretty much the power of I that we're working with today. And that's going to give me, let's see, 49, and it will become a minus 36. And when I do that math, that should be 13. So up here in my final answer, I get 13 plus 84i. And that would be my final answer right there when I multiply these out. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify it. If you're looking up here, it's the 64i squared that I want to simplify before I multiply again. So let's say that this is a negative 8i, and that's going to become a negative 64 when I put a negative 1 in this I squared spot. And then I'm going to have to multiply that by 2 plus 6i. Now this problem looks exactly like the last problems we've been doing, and we have to use the FOIL or the box method to get a final answer. What I want you to do is pause the video at this point, find me the final answer, okay? And I'm just going to write it up here and we'll see how you guys did. Okay, so I went ahead and did the math. I simplified my I squared, combined all my like terms, and this is the answer that I ended up with. Negative 80 minus 400 I. Okay? Hopefully you guys got that as well. What I did is I wrote out my work here for how I found that final answer. If you need to, pause the video, help your neighbor find out maybe what they did wrong, or ask your neighbor to help you show if you got any part of that wrong. Okay, I'm going to give you two problems now to work with maybe a neighbor on, see if you guys can come up with the final answers. I'll then show you the answers and we'll see how you guys did. Okay, so the final two problems of this lesson are going to be the following. Okay, so the first one is you have the quantity 1 minus I, that whole thing squared. Be careful with your numbers. And then the second one is you have three different terms that need to be multiplied together. It's up to you whether you multiply the last two together first and then distribute this third one to that answer, or do the first two and simplify that I squared like I did in the last problem. Go ahead and pause the video, solve these two with your neighbor, make sure your math is correct. When everyone is done, restart the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, here are the two answers to those problems. Go ahead and pause the video, let everybody check their answers. If you got something wrong, figure out where you made a mistake, and then we'll continue on to the next thing. Okay, hopefully that was enough example problems for you guys. Okay, when I look back through here, we did quite a few example problems. Some were in detail, some were not. Let me go ahead and explain what your homework is for this weekend, and then you can have your homework to work on until the bell rings. Your homework is in two parts. Okay, the first part is you need to simplify powers of I. Okay, so I give you some more practice with simplifying the powers of I that you guys got to do last night. If you didn't get very many of your homework problems on that done correctly when you checked your answers at the beginning of class, maybe work on that section with a partner right now when you get it. Okay, the second part, is that you need to actually just simplify by multiplying. Okay, and it's exactly what we just did in class. Remember that your two options are to either FOIL or use the box. Okay, so now you can go ahead and get your homework and work on that until the bell rings. Have a great weekend, and hopefully I'll see you guys on Monday.